I'm David Griffin. It's the 3rd of January 2018 and I'm here at Denby Cricket Club talking to
Mick Glenn,
Ian Burgoyne,
Peter Cook,
Neil Sparham.
Good evening, gentlemen. I feel honoured to be in your presence because although no one's actually taken the trouble to do it, I suspect I'm in the presence of thousands of wickets and tens of thousands of runs. Obviously, the four of you over the years have been some of the mainstays of Denby Cricket Club. If you can just briefly just give us your first connection with Denby, how you came to be involved with Denby.
Well, my first connection was, I guess, in the time-honoured fashion of turning up with relatives and just being at the ground, and then when they're a bit short of people to bowl in the nets, having a bowl in the nets. That was come and have a bowl, and then do you want a game on Saturday?
And what age were you, Mick, when you first came?
I was 12.
Right.
I used to go to the club, the old Ryefields ground, prior to that, but I was 12 when I played my first game of cricket for the club.
My introduction to Denby was obviously through my dad, who would be captain at the time, I believe.
When would this have been?
This would be late 60s.
Right.
And I can remember coming on as 12th man, like the only one there.
Yeah.
And I believe it was against A&B.
Was.
Up at Ryefields,
Yeah.
and I think I would be 8
Really?
at that time.
Wow.
Caught a catch.
I played my first competitive game with Denby on my 13th birthday up at Denby for the second team against Alfred and Welfare Seconds.
Excellent. I'm liking the memories.
Yeah, my first memories are in 1966 when I lived in Kilburn, and I thought I could play cricket. So I thought I'll see what local clubs there are. So I got on my bike and came up to Denby, and I was watching the second team, and in my innocence thought, I can do better than this. I couldn't, but at the time I thought I could, and joined in 66, had a couple of evening games, and then my first full season was 67, playing in the second team, and played for about 45 years, something like that. So
We might come back to some of those years in a minute. And you, Neil?
Me, very similar to Ian. My father used to play for many years for Denby, so I got introduced to the game that way, and I don't think it was the same game as Ian because he was a little bit older than me. But my first game also was as a 13-year-old against Alfred and Welfare up at Ryefields. And I remember I was 12th man because the Rippling used to put the teams in, didn't they? And it said 12th man, N. Sparham. And I remember that morning, Ian's dad, Eric, who was captain, came, knocked on the door, says he's playing. So my mum had to try and get all some whites from my dad and shorten them quickly, ready for me to play that game.
Yeah, because you forget, don't you? Do you know, that's brought memory back to me. The only way you found out if you were playing in sports teams in those days was it listed in the paper, wasn't it? Well, yeah, my word.
Well, it wasn't the only way. I mean,
but there were no mobiles or internet.
If you came up to practice, there would be a list. There would be a list on a Tuesday night.
Yeah. On the board, on the notice board, wouldn't they?
On the notice board in the
I obviously wasn't there that week, and I got the surprise of my life, saying that 12th man, then sparring for Denver's second team, and then Ian's dad came and gave me the news somebody had dropped out, and I batted number 11, and we won by 1 wicket out, last man in. We were 8 wickets down, that's right. We won by 2 wickets. I was like this, shaking.
So where were Denby? I know you started at slightly different times, but where were Denby as a club at that time in terms of the quality of the side and the number of players and teams that you'd got?
Well, when I first started in 66 and 67, it was very much a village club made up of local players, and as I think you've heard earlier from some of the older players, the club had a bit of a problem and lost quite a lot of players, and there was actually a time when we did consider whether to run a second team or not.
Really?
And we had a meeting, and it went about 6-4 in favour of retaining the second team. that was sort of a very important point, I think, in Denby history, because if we'd gone to one team, I don't think we would be where we are today. But we kept the second team going, which was, as it happened, the right decision, and it's blossomed. But times were very, very different in those days. You didn't have your own kit. You know, you didn't have transport, and it was so different up till, I would say, the 70s, and then things started to change quite dramatically, I think.
And was that, Ian, was that border league cricket by then, in the 70s you played, not Derbyshire border league? What was the standard like then? Because presumably you'd got some county pros who would have been playing on...
Not for us.
Not for Denby, no, but you'd be coming up against them presumably from
No, we
time to
didn't
time.
really. I think the county at that time I don't think they rated the border league at that time.
Oh, right.
And they used to get players from Staffordshire and elsewhere. You know, I think that Derbyshire had quite a contact with Staffordshire,
Yeah.
you know, with Bob Taylor and or those.
Well, if you look back at the players from Derbyshire at that time, like the Borringtons and the Aaron Cartwrights, they played Chesterfield. I think they rated the basketball league
Yes.
far better than they did our league, which probably was right at the time.
It was.
That was one of the strongest leagues in the country,
It was, yeah.
the basketball.
Right, Mick, did you get sent to Huddersfield?
Yes, we got sent to the Huddersfield League and the Yorkshire League. So I had a season in the Yorkshire League and a season in the Huddersfield League.
Because of course you played, as we know, played for Derbyshire in the 1970s, so you were on Denby first. How were you spotted by Derbyshire? Were you spotted, or did someone send you down for nets? What was the...
I think I don't know how you got spotted, but I just went down to the Colts. There's Derbyshire schools, and then there was Derbyshire Colts. So
Who was looking after the Colts then, mate?
I think a chap called Frank Rasmussen.
Oh yeah.
He was looking after the Colts, lovely man. And there might have been a gentleman called Edmonds. But it was a very different era. A lot of the players had been in it was quite a difficult team to break into because it was under 19 cricket. So you had to be quite good, and the players could come from literally all over the country. So you weren't. I think if you've got players coming from Yorkshire who happened to have a relationship with Derbyshire.
Yeah.
So it was, when you got to the Colts, it was a good standard of cricket. But you're right. My thought was that the standard of bowling was good. I thought the standard of bowling was very good at that time in the late 60s and early 70s. The batting was quite poor at times.
I suppose it could go to the standard of the wickets.
Yeah.
You know, they've improved as batsmen have improved.
Yeah.
I think it was a fair enough, at the time it's probably a fair enough assessment, but in relation to the league certainly did push up the standards, and I think we didn't get promoted one season because of it, did we? So it was, they drove up the standard, but the leagues and the clubs responded.
Yeah. So in terms of facilities, because you all started presumably at the old Pottery ground, and then
we won the league in 1978, Division 2.
On the old ground.
On the old ground, was denied to go up there, unless we weren't denied. We weren't allowed to play in Charles Hill, didn't we? Did I tell a lie? Did we won the cup in '77? Did we finish second in 1977? And we denied promotion because of the ground.
Right.
And then we had on the right field again for the '78, and we won the league at the Canter. But the league was going to be ripped up for open casting anyway, so we had 3 years at Charles Hill while this was being prepared, and they allowed us to play in the Premier League at Charles Hill, playing for Gloucester.
So which Premier League was that then?
Well, the old Division 1.
So you'd moved from border league, you took
Border League.
Border
won
League
the
changed
border
to be County League,
right?
and then County League Division 1 is basically
Is what is now the
League
Premier.
now.
So you had particular success in the old County League Division 1. When would that have been? When did you win that?
Well, we won it in '86 and '89.
86, 89, but I think you could see when we got promoted in 78 and 70, first year in 79, we'd always be there at the Cups. Every year we finished 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd. You could see,
You're working your way towards.
You could see from the early 80s that we were going to be the force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who else were your big rivals round about that time? Then?
Langley Mill.
Everybody says Langley Mill, even if they were.
Darley Dale.
And Oakbrook, I would say as well,
Yeah.
eventually.
When they came in,
Yeah.
because obviously they weren't in our league.
Well,
No.
they were in 1977, weren't they?
Just.
Yeah, just. But I'm saying they became rivals because
Yeah.
they were the team that spent a lot of money and got these ex-pros playing for them, and we had a lot of, real good games with them.
Yeah.
And they became rivals.
Yeah, I mean,
But Langley Mill and Darley Dale for me were the original rivals.
we were one of the latest clubs to pay players. That most of the other clubs had gone along that line before us, and we didn't embrace that until it must have been late 80s possibly.
I think it was probably later than...
I'd say mid-90s.
Yeah.
Was that because you felt you were good
Sorry.
enough to not need to pay players? Would that
No,
be
it
fair?
wasn't. No, I don't think
Or was it the
was
principle?
I think
it was.
we felt like that.
Did you? We're good enough to win, so...
No.
Right, we proved it.
I can remember vividly sat in the change room at the old West Hallam ground, and I'm sure you were captain, Mick, but you disappeared like you normally did. And we got an overseas player.
Yes,
At the time-
that was 89, yeah, Colin Hunter.
It was
Yes.
Sawley.
It wasn't. It was at West Hallam, Neil.
Oh, he played at Sawley, didn't he? He played at
Probably.
Sawley.
And we had a little team meeting after a game to decide whether Colin Hunter would be playing for them.
Well, I think it was. He didn't
We
come
said,
late.
Yes,
we
we
said no, and he didn't play for us.
Yeah.
We felt we were a good enough team.
I don't think that's the full story. He came late, didn't he? He missed quite a few games. In his first game, we played Sawley and bowled him out for 33 or 39 because Mick and Colin got 5 wickets each. And then his second game at West Hallam might have been, but it was definitely he played at Sawley and took 5 wickets. And then we made the decision, because if you remember that game, David Smith came because Neil Barker wasn't available. And there was the thing, does Barker come in, does whatever. Well, I don't remember that very well.
Remember West Hallam sat in that change.
Yeah, but he played at Sawley.
Yeah, it was.
Definitely played at Sawley. So it's probably his second
He
game.
did, he came, he was supposed to be coming at the start of the season. If he'd have come at the start of the season, that would have been fine. But he came, perhaps not halfway through, but
End of
quite a
May,
way
I
into the
thought.
season.
End of May, early June
I
perhaps.
think that answers it.
Yeah.
But definitely,
We felt we were good enough
Yeah.
for that, and I think
think-
results prove that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I think you're right, but I also think there was some resistance in the club from a financial point of view. We didn't want to.
Yeah.
We didn't want to pay players. We resisted it, and when I look back, I think we resisted it for too long, possibly. But it's easy to say that in hindsight. But we did fantastically well against teams like Langley Mill in particular, who they'd turn up with about five players. A couple of them might be sort of like test players.
Yeah.
We had the jinx over them, didn't we?
It's interesting listening to you actually, because when we're talking to Liam and to Dan, they're talking about how it's a young team now that they're working with, and a lot of teenagers, and they hope that if they can stick together, they can move on together. And it's kind of, you can see where that comes from, because clearly that was the way you played. If I can just ask you, Neil, because your name is kind of resonates. There are certain players down the years that even if you've not watched a lot of league cricket, you see these names that jump out from the scores and everything. Did you ever have ambitions to play at a
County level?
At a high
Oh, yeah.
level?
Yeah, I mean, I played for the seconds in '84.
Yeah.
But I didn't get paid a penny, expenses. I just got engaged to get married. I could afford to have 3 days off work.
Yeah.
I think I played twice, 2 games. And then I got asked again in '89. I got a phone call at work from Mick. He says, I'm going to get a phone call from Phil Russell. I was, oh, right. Because I was going to play in Australia anyway, go back to Australia with Kevin, the overseas player at that time, Kevin Bartholomew, so I was backing him job up anyway. So he says, you're going to get a phone call from Phil Russell. So, oh, right. And lo and behold, I put the phone down, and 5 minutes later he rang. So I wanted to play the Fidelity seconds against Essex in a 1 day. So yeah, I'd love to. What time? Be there for so and so. I got 50 odd. And then it says, well, we play Essex in the 4 day. After that, got 50 odd again. And ended up getting 100 against Yorkshire. I thought, I've got an outside chance here. 60 or 70 at Leicester. Look at the rest of the batsmen, they did nothing. But they gave the contract to Zad Sadine. and that was it. He'd just been released by Surrey. So I felt sorry for me himself and probably Paul Shaw at Lullington Park, who'd gone to Langley Mill that year actually.
Yeah.
Paul had given his job up and everything for the year and was not rewarded. Far better playing that as SRE.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had ambitions. I felt a bit, I feel bitter, but I feel a bit let down. I think I might have had a chance of making a career out of it. Definitely.
Small margins, isn't it? Because, you know, I mean, you'll know yourself, Mick, from having played at that level, that you look around and you just think, could he have made it, or was he good enough? And you look at the county staff over the years, you know, my association, 40 odd years with Derbyshire, you look at players and think, you know, how did they get on the start? And it is a kind of, it's a bit of a lottery at times.
I can one more to that. Last year, well, towards my later years, I played for Mary, and Barry Marsh, ex-Derbyshire, came to watch us. Him and Kev had come round and I grew around the grounds some days. It was a lovely day up at Mary. And he says, oh, yeah, a nice guy, I was going over there, I liked him. He said, oh, let's keep in touch with Russell as well. Wow, you know, he's not my greatest friend. He says, because he was working in South Africa. He goes, oh, he's just got Coach of the Year. I goes, oh, great, you know, fantastic. He says, he's got his, I speak to him every week, he rings me or I ring him. He says, he's got one regret in the office. What's that, Barry? He says, he should have given you a contract for the one day. I goes, thanks for that, Barry, you made me feel fantastic. And I was about 44 at the time. Really.
Believe it or not, we've been talking for about 20 minutes already.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do is just go down the line and just ask you if you've got a standout memory from your time at Denby, if there's a particular moment or something that you will always treasure as something that's been a highlight for you. If we start with you, Mick?
Well, for me it was, I think the year was 89, I'm not quite sure, but we won the treble, whatever it was. So we won the league, the Silver League Cup and the Derbyshire Cup.
And Eddie Marshall.
Oh right, I can't. that's not the memory of the 10 grand. But I think we lost one match to Elveston in the semi-final of the Jackson Cup, which absolutely mortified me. It was terrible because it was a team from a division below.
Yeah.
But it was perhaps, and I think we lost one game. We got rolled over for about 50 just from nowhere.
Yeah.
And I think that was a jolt that we needed to sort of say, actually, you know, this is the year. And it was, we beat Otbrook a bit in their final, and one of our young players and one of the guys that was around when we started becoming a side, a guy called Dave Smith, and Steve Bullock put 70 on against a good Otbrook and Burgoyne team. So I remember that because of the event that it was.
Yeah.
But I remember it because Ian, he loves going to the West Indies, the Caribbean. He loves the Caribbean. You do know, you like the Caribbean. He went to the Caribbean and he sent a postcard. Denby Cricket Club, home of the treble, United Kingdom, and it got it. So, a postcard from Barbados got in. And
so was that your highlight in sending the postcard?
I think Mick will confirm I can't remember. I have got no standouts at all. I'm not very good at remembering things. I just enjoy my time.
A great life playing cricket at Denby. That's good enough.
Whoever I play with, whoever I play against. If I play against them, I'm going to beat them. We never lost till we've lost. And I think the four of us here, if that was something that runs Chopper's arm off and look down there, that we're never beaten until we are beaten will be in our veins.
Well, I'm going to stop you there and come back in a second to you two gentlemen, because we've just run out of time. So thank you very much indeed, and we'll catch up again in a minute.